Hopefully this is the right channel. I think we are. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a false alarm on the first channel there. My apologies. And now we are late on the second channel. Great beginning of the show here. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, better late than never. I like to always say, yes, I think we're on the right channel here. Like, share, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, because I have at the moment 124 subscribers. You could be the 125th, you could be the 126th even. Let your friends know, ladies and germs, that this channel is the channel 2, basically, of Fumidor and the Flavors. We're going to be keeping this running. I'm going to be probably starting a couple other channels here in the future, just to kind of spread the risk around, basically, because you guys know how it is. All the cannabis channels get shut down and stuff. We don't have to rehash the details, but in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, help me out and help hopefully yourselves out, because I think you enjoyed these shows, because you keep tuning in. So help yourselves out, my friends, and like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. And also, I always forget to say this, but click the bell thingy, because I don't see my own, when I see my own channel, I don't see the bell thingy. But if you're subscribed, make sure to hit the bell so you actually get notifications. Because, for example, we just went a couple minutes late here, or we accidentally hopped live on the other channel. Well, if you wanted to basically be in touch with that kind of stuff and see what's going on, make sure to hit the bell, ladies and gentlemen, so that you actually don't miss the warnings and stuff. Now that we're here, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Atomic Spoon. Welcome, Crime More Grows. Let me pop out the chat here so that we can get this show on the road. Oh, wait, that's the wrong chat. I always forget, because I am... No, wait, no, I'm on the right chat now, finally. I am on the right chat because I want to be Funoro. It's so confusing these days. All right, pop out chat. Why is it not popping out? There we go. All right, now I am, yes, I am the actual moderator on this chat, unlike on the main channel where I like go live or whatever. I'm fucking talking like a crazy person right now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let me switch the live chat like you guys should. Let me post the link too. You guys are welcome to join us. Please remember that guest rules apply. You're used to seeing Flora basically as a panelist, ladies and gentlemen, but today Flora, he's going to be taking a dab here. He is the guest, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking to Flora Nugs as a breeder guest. It's gonna be super fun to see how it occurred to me, honestly. You were talking, I think on your show, I was kind of just lurking, honestly, and just doing some gardening work, and you were talking about how you hadn't showed your face on video and blah blah blah, and I was thinking, oh, how weird. Like, I know you've been breeding many years before I have. I think you've been breeding for maybe 10 or more years. I guess we're gonna ask you, but you hadn't shown your face, which is a common thing, basically. A lot of people kind of don't want to show their face, especially with weed and stuff, right? Anyway, so I thought, well, fuck, what the shit? He'd be good. Like, how do I say this? Like, he popped his video cherry on my show or something. Like, we should get to know him a little bit better. And it was kind of funny because I was like, well, hell, we talk to him all the time, but I actually don't know how he got started and all that kind of stuff. So, Flora, by the way, welcome. Cheers. Now that you took your dab, cheers, buddy.
Yeah, well, thanks.
It's good to see you, buddy.
You gonna do your disclaimer first, or?
I sure am. And by the way, cheers, D. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Flora, for reminding me. Ladies and gentlemen, you must be 21 and over. Let me see if I can find all the different. Unfortunately, I hid the disclaimer right now, so that is bad timing. Got to find it here while I'm talking, but hopefully I can remember enough to say, please remember, ladies and gentlemen, that was the wrong tab. Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, this show is for adults 21 and over. If you are somewhere else, if you live somewhere where the rules are a little bit different, for example, you need to be 24 or something, please follow your local rules, because I don't want anyone to get in trouble for something as innocuous as talking about pretty flowers, ladies and gentlemen, because that's ultimately what we're doing. Please do remember also, by the way, I guess I should look at the camera before sharing this warning screen. Please do remember, ladies and gentlemen, there is no way whatsoever to get drugs from this show. If you think that you can get drugs from this show, you are both deluded, you are also wrong, and you are potentially also a little bit insane. You might also be a little bit stupid, because I really emphasize there is no way to get drugs from this show. There are no ways whatsoever to get drugs from this show. You cannot buy drugs. You cannot get drugs for free. You cannot barter for drugs. You cannot be gifted drugs. I would not gift them to you. I would not give them to you for a hateful gift. I would not give you a white elephant gift. I would not give you any kind of a present that has drugs in it. I would not in any circumstances bequeath to you, bestow upon you, or even offer you drugs. I wouldn't even think about offering you drugs. And that goes so far that it doesn't matter what kind of drugs it is. I don't care if it's weed. I don't care if it's anything else. I don't care if it's a drug for a said white elephant, ladies and gentlemen. It's that much of a white elephant gift that I'd gifted it with fucking elephant antibiotics. I still wouldn't give them to you. You'd have to deal with that goddamn elephant yourself. I wouldn't give you Tylenol. I would not give you a recommendation to the closest Chinese medicine healer, ladies and gentlemen. I would not, under any circumstances, offer you any kind of medication or palliative care whatsoever. I wouldn't even, at this point, I wouldn't offer you water in the desert. That would have been funnier if I hadn't stuttered. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't offer you any goddamn palliative. Thanks to all the trolling on this channel. You cannot, under any circumstances, find anything that will ail what ails you, or that will. No, that will. Yeah, you probably can find things. If you listen to the show long enough, it'll ail you. But you cannot find anything that will heal what ails you on this show. No drugs whatsoever on this show. I don't know how much more emphatic I can. Not for any amount of money in the world, not for any amount of money in the universe, not for any amount of money in all of the universes. If this is a bubble universe in a vacuum bubble, or if we're in a simulation or anything else. Even in the alien civilization whose computers we are running, being run as a simulation on, we still wouldn't offer you drugs even there. Once I've, now that I've actually emphatically said all those things, hopefully that was, goddammit, hopefully that was clear enough. And now that I click all the wrong fucking things, there we go. What was that, Flora?
To disclose everything.
It's
all about disclosure. If you disclose it,
it's fucking ridiculous.
And said and done.
And it's all because of like 3 people that always report this stuff. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, if you're still here,
fuck those clown people. I mean, they're the biggest super fans of the show. It's amazing. Like they followed me from the other channel to this channel, and now they're basically super fans of this channel. Watch every single.
And they probably followed you from EO.
100%. 100%.
That's where I first knew about you, was the EO show.
Fucking ridiculous. You're right. You're 100% right. Yeah. Anyway. Ladies and germs, just like with the EO, ladies and gentlemen, we did not do any extremely dangerous challenges that pose an imminent risk of physical injury. I never remember doing any of those with Dirtman Dan or Tanasi or any of those folks on the EO show, and we certainly will not be doing them here, ladies and gentlemen. We also don't do dangerous or threatening pranks that lead victims to fear imminent serious physical danger or that create serious emotional distress in minors. Now, we did honestly actually get a cream-filled donut dick from Voodoo Donuts in Denver, and we offered it to Stabby McStabwood. He didn't take it super well. It was actually kind of funny, but it was very amusing. And we actually asked the donut lady, can you make it extra jizzy? And she was like, yes, I will love to make it extra. She was so happy. She was so happy, and she really like just jizzed it the fuck up. It was pretty good.
That's fantastic.
It was fantastic, honestly. But other than that, it was not a dangerous prank. It was a pretty harmless prank. And then we actually ate the donut afterwards, so it was pretty harmless, I would say, except for maybe high sugar or something. Instructions to kill or harm are not shown on this show, showing viewers how to perform activities meant to kill or maim others. For example, giving instructions to build a bomb meant to injure or kill others. Hard drug use or its creation is not shown in this show. Content that depicts abuse of or giving instructions on how to create hard drugs, such as cocaine or opioids. Hard drugs are defined as drugs that can mostly lead to physical addiction. And I add the proviso that sometimes you'll hear stories on this show that people discuss cocaine, opioids, other drugs on this show. Please always remember those are negative depictions, and you should never, under any circumstances, emulate those stories. Please remember that those people are very regretful for their past, and also those stories are completely and totally fictionalized. Instructional theft or cheating is not shown, showing viewers how to steal tangible goods or promoting dishonest behavior. We would never discuss any of those kinds of things. Hacking is not shown, demonstrating how to use computers or information technology with the intent to steal credentials, compromise personal data, or cause serious harm to others, such as, but not limited to, hacking into social media accounts. Finally, bypassing payment for digital content or services is not shown, showing viewers how to use apps, websites, or other information technology to gain unauthorized access to audio content, audiovisual content, full video games, software, or streaming services that normally require payment. We would never discuss anything like that. That's fucking ridiculous, farcical, and stupid. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for sitting through that disclaimer, and thank you very much, Lars, Duckweed, and all you other fuckfaces for making you do that. But hey, I guess it makes us better at doing this if we ever get bigger. Isn't that a funny thought, honestly? I wonder if that ever occurs to those guys, that they basically sharpen our knives for when we actually ever have real enemies that are not diaper-wearing clown people. But hey, cheers, D. Good to see you, my friend. What's the good word?
What's going on, everybody? What's going on, chat? What's going on, panel? Cheers. Everyone can find me on Instagram at D_zombie_. Man, I just smoke a joint. I'm out of of sorts now with all this housekeeping shit.
That's it.
But hey, that's where you can find me. I'm smoking on some OG Kush, which wasn't that good still, but I did find some unicorn poop pre-rolls that I rolled up.
Nice. That name never fails to make me laugh. Honestly.
Yeah. No, actually, it's not unicorn poop. It was oh shit! No, I can't think of it. But it has poop, unicorn poop in it. But yeah, cheers, everybody.
Isn't that
Oh,
ridiculous,
cheers to
Flora? We're
Pat.
like, yeah, that's awesome. And we're like talking about how great poop is.
I need the poop boof.
the poop terps. What's going on, Smash? What's the good word?
Yo, I only got a couple minutes. I got to bounce out. I got a doctor's.
Right. I hope you're doing all right. I hope it's just a routine thing. I hope it's not something serious.
Yeah, once a month. It's
Right.
Part of like the addiction process with me.
Huh. Right on.
I like having the doctor, like they drug test me and stuff still to this day. And I like that because it kind of keeps me responsible. I could go get high and nothing would happen, you know what I mean? But it just in the back of your head, you're like, man, it's not worth it.
They tell you your cannabinoid levels in your body, or they just tell you if you have it or not?
I could probably ask.
That'd be kind of fun. But then the problem is you'd make it a competition. You'd be like, fuck, I couldn't pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. You go back the next month, they're like, fuck, we have never seen numbers this high. We had to get a new machine. We had to import a new calibrator from Germany just to freaking do this. There's like a German chick that's like, hello. What's that, Flora?
At first, he's trying to test highest in the state, and he's trying to test highest in the United States, highest in the world.
This is the highest recorded number.
Are you sure you tested it right? I knew I smoked a lot that day.
I can go higher.
I can be that.
He's just like, he goes like Super Saiyan. All right, we're getting ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. While Flora Nugs is taking another dab, I guess I will, I don't know, introduce the show, ladies and gentlemen. If you are new to the show, this is High Noon Safety Meeting. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I guess as you can see, it's a little bit of a ridiculous show here. We keep getting reports. Flora Nugs and I were talking about this. Like, we kind of both thought Tina Turner was dead. I hate to be the bearer of bad news if you guys just heard, but Tina Turner has apparently passed away at 83. I could swear that she passed away a few years ago, so I'm glad she had a few more years of life. I'm glad I was wrong, honestly. But in the meantime, rest in peace, Tina Turner. That's sad, but I guess I had been sad a few years ago. I vividly remember like the whole story with Ike and Tina Turner and blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, but in the meantime, I must be thinking of somebody else. Flora and we must have Mandela affected it 100%. Yeah. And we were like, he was like, who's the bathtub? We were, it was Whitney Houston. No, it wasn't her.
It's just like Shazam. Who was the star of Shazam?
Right. Exactly. Oh, that's the new one. It's fucking Zachary Levi, because I know he's the whiny
Yeah, but the original, the old one, who was the genie? Was it Shaq?
Everybody thinks it was freaking what's his phrase?
Cedric the Entertainer. No,
not Cedric.
No.
Sinbad or whatever.
Sinbad, that's the one. And apparently that never happened. Yeah, and everyone has this memory. Like, I vividly have this memory of him being that, but no, apparently it didn't happen.
Anyway. I don't know how we got like how does something like that get in your brain? You know what I mean? You must have seen it or something.
Probably it's a glitch in the matrix, and we're actually just all what do they call them? NPCs in some alien teenagers high school project. Wouldn't that be ridiculous? Yeah. Our whole universe has been dreamed up by some pimple-faced tentacle alien.
It's like the Truman Show.
Right.
You ever watch the South Park episode when they Cartman has the satellite in his butt?
Yeah. Was that first one? I think that was the pilot. Yeah. And
they cancel the TV show Earth because they found out about it.
Turn the volume down. Hope I didn't hurt anything. In the meantime, though, ladies and gentlemen, I think I didn't even finish saying this earlier. Folks, you guys are welcome to hop on here if you are regulars on the show. So if you guys are regulars, I realize that's kind of unclear because you're like, wait, this is a new channel. If you're regulars on the bigger channel, I guess just to be more clear, because obviously this channel is kind of newer. If you're regulars on Fumidor and the Flavors, if you're regulars basically on Chronic Table is supposed to be the name of the show. I don't always call it that, of course. Sometimes I call it just random shit, right? But in the meantime, the show is actually called Chronic Table. If you're regulars over there, you guys are welcome to hop on over here. And of course, if you guys would like to talk to Flora, if you've grown his genetics before, if you'd like to ask a question, just ask politely. We don't really want to filter anyone away. We'd love to ask you, or love to invite you on the panel. We just want to make sure that we don't get any fucking random fruitcakes on here. So, I mean, nice fruitcakes are nice, but not random fruitcakes, right? So, folks, just ask politely if you'd like to hop on here, and you're not a regular, we'd be more than welcome, or you're more than welcome. Just like I say, be polite. Don't freaking, if you came up to some random person's door, you wouldn't walk right in, right? You'd basically knock first, and you'd ask, "Hey, can I come into your house?" Which is, I realize now, probably something nobody would
Or
really ask,
doorbell.
but
My best, like, I have a couple best friends that are still around, and like even at their parents' house, I could walk right in without saying anything.
I know people like that. People are kind of funny. I know like a couple of friends of mine, even because they have kids. I have a friend who's in her mid 50s or something. I'm very surprised. I guess she lives in a safe neighborhood, but her house is apparently almost never locked. And she's honestly annoyed because she'll come home sometimes, like the kids will be in bed and stuff, and she'll come home at 2:00 or something from work, and the door's open. And she's like, "What the fuck?" Like the door's never fucking locked. But I guess the neighborhood is safe.
She tried dressing up in like a green suit, looked like a Mormon suit, but all green, knock on doors. Excuse me, I'm from cannabis land. Do you have time to talk about cannabis?
I wonder now, don't do this. I wonder if you dressed up in a green, like a chroma key green suit, like for motion capture, and then walked in front of like people's rings. If you could somehow, oh no, you'd have to actually hack into the ring.
Hack it and
yeah. But I guess if you could,
no,
how funny would that be that you could like
become
Gollum or something come into your door? Anyway,
if you have access to someone's ring camera, you could do something like that.
That would be a funny prank, by the way. But we don't do pranks on the show. Go ahead, Flora.
No, when I lived in a city, it was always either religious people or politicians of some sort. That's
right. Or shady roofing companies. Hi, we're passing through this neighborhood. We'd like to replace all your roofs, but today only.
So, have you guys ever heard the story of like the Mormons coming to you? Know when Mormons come to your door and stuff? Supposedly, if they don't want to come to your door anymore, they put a mark on your door with like a pencil or a mark.
I've heard that.
And I found a mark yesterday. It's on the side of my door. If you open my door, there's a little mark that N.
No, I used to invite them to play video games when they came over.
I would open the door with a fat ass joint all the time.
I'm trying to figure out if it's insulting or not that they put an N on your door. I'm just like, I don't know. You're marked by the church. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
It's not my church, so I don't give a fuck.
It's kind of rude though to have somebody like mark your house though. Like I wouldn't walk up to their church and mark it like, oh, this is the Mormon church. I got to remember
come here,
some shit, right, or whatever. Yeah, like
draw
happy face
and the anarchy symbol in the grass.
Well, now that we have pissed off half the audience already, ladies and gentlemen, all the who haven't we pissed off? All right, Flora Nugs, welcome to the show. Have I said all the stuff that I think I'm supposed to say? I think I have said all the stuff that I'm supposed to say. Go for it, Z. Go for it, D.
Before you begin the interview, did you push record?
I did. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, D. In fact, I was. In fact, it's probably at the beginning of the recording. I was like, "Oh, thank you, imaginary voice of D, for the recording reminder." Because, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to press record for the Romulan interview, and because I don't pay for premium or whatever the fuck on this channel, I can't download it, so that's really annoying. So the only place you can watch it is on this channel.
Let me ask you something about that, because I don't understand this. Why are you pressing record? Does it not automatically save it? And then
it is, but I have an audio recorder to my microphone and stuff. Basically, at the moment, you hear me using it as an interface. You can't see it, but I have this little audio recorder basically here, but it's also recording this in high fidelity. So I can rip it to the podcast, first of all, way faster than downloading it, because I used to download it from YouTube and shit. And it would take fucking hours because YouTube uses the slowest possible server to download the data to you.
They have so much. YouTube.
It's just next level. No, because you can download YouTube videos if you have YouTube Premium or whatever, super fast. But if you want to download your own shit from the studio, they use the slowest speed available. So a lot of times it would take me the whole day to download it. So having the recorder, first of all, saves me all that time. But second of all, it's in far higher fidelity than it is from YouTube. And then I can basically take it straight into Audition. Like, for example, I might even have the podcast up like a couple hours after the show. Just like last week, I had the podcast up just a couple hours after the show because I literally just basically, I didn't even have to change cables because it's like plugged in through USB-C. I just moved the freaking file over, edited the audio, and boom. It was.
When I was uploading on the podcast sites, that's how I did it too. I had Audible recording in the background, what I was hearing in my microphone. So like it recorded the whole conversation. Like you say, it's just easier to upload it to the podcasting sites. It really is.
And sounds better too. I can tell you about that more, Flora, because I know Flora is interested in upping his techno game. I think a lot of us are. Well, honestly, Flora, don't even have to look at the list. How'd you get started? How'd you get into cannabis? How'd you get started with breeding? Your choice of story. How'd you get into it?
Let's see. How did I get into? Well, I guess we talk. Those are vastly different things and big
Go for it.
stories. So I guess we'll have to just go with like, how did I start smoking cannabis?
Sure, go for it.
So shit,
Yeah.
when I was 15, I was dating a girl that I met on this, like, I don't know. I was going to school with her too. Anyway, I was dating this girl, and she's basically she had already smoked weed, and I was kind of like, I was like super into the dare. I graduated my dare class, and I was like, I wanted to go in the military and shit. Really into that, but I had a couple years prior to that, I got hit by a car, and on Highway 2, and it like fucked up my neck, my back. All damage from it. Basically, it fucked me up. My teeth are fucked up from it. Like, so like it really fucked me up. And so like pretty much when I was 16, like I wanted to do like, like we have ROTC. I'm sure they have it everywhere. And the recruiter's like, no, man, you're too much of a liability. There's no way you'll ever get into the, any branch of the military. And like, I don't know, I kind of was like a super letdown for me. And because I ran track in school, so like I felt like I was plenty athletic enough. Like why what the what's the deal? But anyway, that summer, like getting that's like pounded into my head. I was pretty much okay. Well, fuck it. I guess like because part of the whole thing of being like dare and clean and shit was like I eventually thought I might go into the military. You can't be smoking weed. I'm like I don't want to hang out with like the fucking deadhead like stoner like crowd. Like I was an IT computer nerd, carried a computer book. I didn't really have a lot of friends, kind of socially awkward guy, and so hanging out with the stoners was like not really my thing. But then I was dating this girl, and she pretty much she hung it over my head like a carrot in front of a fucking hungry animal. And she's like, if you want some sex, you gotta smoke this joint.
If I heard a nickel, or if I had a nickel for the amount of times I've heard that.
Yeah. And so
that's pretty funny though. If you want, that's like every teenage boy's dream, I guess, right? If you want some sex, how about this joint? I dare you to smoke this joint for some sex.
No, I
because like
I didn't want to smoke it. I'm like, just give me the sex. Come on, like you like me, don't you? I like you. You like me. I like ice cream. You like ice cream. Like, yeah, But no, she's like, she was pretty adamant about it, and so so first thing is like I was like, okay,
you got to be
so
this
where do you
high
get-
to ride. She should have said, but maybe she wasn't witty enough.
And she was older than me too, like by a year older than me. So she said, I'm like, so where do you get this stuff at? I'm like, she goes, let's go downtown and see if we can find like some homie G people, and maybe one of them will know where to get it. And I go downtown. Like we lived in like Snohomish County, so this is like Everett I'm talking about, like Everett, Washington. It's like north of Seattle. And we go down to the fucking bus station, and I'm like looking for like some homie G looking motherfuckers, right? And I asked this one dude that looked like my age, right? And I'm like, he's like, oh no, you gotta go talk to Babyface. I'm like, who's Babyface? He's like, Babyface is down there. He runs this whole block. He can't be talking to me, I'm like, what? So they had like this whole code of shit. I didn't understand nothing about this, I'm like 15, almost 16. I'm gonna be 16 at the end of summer, and so yeah, I find the Babyface guy, and he's like, what you want? And I'm like, $20, because like $20 was still a lot of money to me, like I had allowances, like I didn't have a job, it's like I had to like mow yards and shit to get my $20. Like I didn't just like wasn't just given my $20 anyway. So anyway, I got $20 worth, which wasn't he probably ripped me off anyway, because I had no way of weighing this. It was only like 2 little nugs, right? And yeah, we went back and we smoked the shit. And I had this experience of tree people. It was really weird. Like we smoked it out of a can, and like I felt like really relaxed, but I felt like there was like these like tree people that were jumping on my kneecaps, and like it felt like my kneecaps were like this imaginary like things that were like jumping on my kneecaps, and like I was like visually like seeing, I don't know, it was fucking crazy experience. But I didn't get, I think it must have been some kind of crazy sativa, because I just got like incredibly like, it was like I wanted to go do shit. Like I wanted to go lay down at first because I felt like these tree people were jumping on me, but then I wanted to go out and hang out in the trees and shit, and like go outside, you know, and like go do stuff. And it was still daytime, so it was, you know, so yeah, I wind up just like going and just walking around and shit, and like, you know, looking at stuff, like, because like for me it affected me like 10 times the amount that like it probably should have. I felt like I actually got visual, like it was like an actual, it was a visual, there was some visual things going on. It wasn't this indica like stupor body stone high like I chased, you know, later on. But anyway, yeah, got high that day. You know, she did her part, we did that. Turned out to be a horrible girlfriend in the long run, but you know, it's whatever. But
She was like Nancy. She was the girlfriend Nancy Reagan warned you about. She was basically getting you into drugs and the underground lifestyle.
Drugs and underground lifestyle, and introduced me to all kinds of trash, and then I married one of my best friends. Yeah, fucked up.
Dang it, Nancy might have been right. I don't think she was though. When did you get started growing weed?
Growing weed, so you know, growing weed was much later. I had gotten seeds. Like it was rare to get a seed in weed in Seattle. If you got a seed, it was kind of like getting a Christmas present. Like I smoked weed every day. I was smoking an eighth a day for years and years and years, more than an eighth a day. At, you know, towards the end there, I was smoking like a quarter a day before I started dabbing, which is part of the reason I started dabbing, is because I was consuming so much. And I like, oh, I can take a dab and I'm high for this much longer. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But so I'd found these seeds in the 90s, and I was super fucking sketched about planting them. So I'd usually like, you know, I'd seen my parents growing weed, because growing up, my parents, they were divorced, but they both grew weed. My mom grew weed here and there, and my dad always was growing weed. And so I'd seen the process quite a bit growing up, right? So I knew how to germinate the seeds from just watching them, and their method is not the method I use now. They use the towel method in the Ziploc bag. They both do that, right? I personally like to just I take a shot glass and I fill it halfway point with water, and then I just drop the seed in there overnight, and then whether it's popped its tail or not, I go poke a hole into my medium about, you know, a fingernail deep, and I drop the seed in there, and then I cover it up. That's how I germinate my seeds. But I just do the water thing to feel like it kind of soften it up a little bit. But, you know, in the 90s, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, really. Like, I'd seen shit, but I didn't know what I was doing, right? I asked my mom, like, in like 97, 98, I asked her, and she gave me this book. And it was, I want to say it was an Ed Rosenthal book, but it might have not been. I remember it had a greenish cover on it. And she gave me this book, and it had barely any pictures, 3 or 4 pictures in the back. And I read it, and you know, I really didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, I usually plant seeds, get them about 6-7 inches tall, get scared, kill them, you know. And then finally I got the courage in the late 99, 98, and I put one in I put one out by the water, let's say, in North and Snohomish County, and it survived. It lived all the way through the season, and like I kept driving back. I'd drive back like, you know, every weekend to go check and see, like park away and then walk. And it was there up until I want to say around like the middle of August, and then it disappeared. It did a disappearing act. And then I didn't do anything again for years and years and years and years. Like 2009. Yeah, like 2009. It was 2009. I got 2009 into 2009. I got a medical card, and because before that, I had friends that had medical cards, but all my friends had like really severe, like my friend Jeff, like he had like very, like he was gonna die type shit, diseases and shit, and those were the only guys that were kind of getting medical cards at first, were people with like cancer and AIDS, right? And Jeff had cancer and AIDS, both, so he was qualified on 2 different accounts. And I remember driving Jeff to the dispensary,
which is somehow even more galling when you think about how the federal government still doesn't recognize any medicinal benefit. Like clearly it was providing medicinal benefit if those people were getting medical cards and actually using it for their treatment for 20 something years now, right? Because I was just thinking like Washington was one of the first medical programs. So that was literally a long time ago, honestly. And there's been a lot of data basically since then. But the federal government's like, la, 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 we can't hear shit. Anyway, go back to you. Sorry.
Yeah. But so these guys, so Jeff I would drive him to the place, and he, would come in, like back then they were reusing people's pill bottles from like their prescription pills. And that's how the shit would come in. And then they would put like a green cross label, like printed on like a little, bubble jet or inkjet or whatever the fuck they had. And that's how the dispensaries were just dispensing it. And he brought me a menu out one day, came out to the car, and I was like, looked at this menu. I was like, what the fuck? You can get all those things? Like I'd only heard of these things in magazines, like you can get White Widow and AK-47 and fucking Incredible and shit. Like you just go in there and get that, like what? So he's like, yeah, he's like, it's $10 a gram donation. And I'm like, okay, I got like $100. You'll get me something. And he went and got it for me, and I was like, cool. And then that later on, that thing moved up on Capitol Hill, and then I would drive him up to Capitol Hill to it. And then finally one day he was like, you should just get your rec. I mean, you should just get your prescription. I'm like, how? And he's like, oh, well, there's this he gave me the name of this doctor. So I went over there. It was $300.
Dr. Bombay.
$300 for the first. It's $40 a year now. It's in California. That's all I pay. But $300. And then when I got it renewed, it was like $150 every year to get that shit renewed up there. It was expensive.
Yeah, it's more up here too.
But anyway, I got the medical card, and I got to back up a little bit before this. So in like 2008, I was working for a bank in Seattle, and I was a part of an IT team at a bank, and that bank got absorbed by a bigger bank, and a lot of us got severance pay. And so one of the guys that was on that, not in my direct IT team, but on one of the other IT teams that worked with me at that bank, he we worked together, but he was in a different group. He opened up one of the first dispensaries in Seattle with that money, with his money. Him and his best friend, they opened the dispensary. And for a while there, I was working at another job right after that. And there was a coworker, because you gravitate, like when you get a job at somewhere, like used to be like, oh, you could like kind of tell like the stoners, and like stoners used to have this, like, I don't know how it is now, but back then before legalization and all this shit, like stoners had like a spidey sense of like other people that would smoke. And it was like the natural gravitation to be friends with the other dude that smoked weed, whether you had anything in common or not. It was like you guys could smoke and talk, right? And so there was this fucking guy at work, a little annoying fucker, but at first he was cool. and he would say, "Hey, can you take me down to the CPC?" And I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, it's a dispensary." I'm like, because we worked in South Seattle, and the CPC was also in South Seattle. And he's like, "Can you take me on CPC?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I didn't know what it was. I was like, "Yeah." It's like, it's a weed shop. I'm like, "Yeah, let's go there." So he's like, "Oh, you got a prescription?" I'm like, "Oh, I got mine," because I'd already had it from, So I go in there and I see this dude, Ben. I'm like, "Holy shit." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm the owner." I'm like, "What? We used to work at the fucking bank." I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, you want some clones?" It's like, so, and then at the time I was living with some roommates, and one of my roommates had gotten his medical card, and I didn't even know, like he grew like 2 pounds or something, like a hydro, like in a tube, like on horse legs, like fucking straight, like hydro tube. I've never done that style, but he did it. He grew this shit in his bedroom. Like I didn't even know motherfucker was growing it. And one day he comes out, and the bedroom, it's like in 2009 or something, in 2010, 2009, and he says, "Oh, this is for my patient." I look at Tyler. I'm like, "Your fucking patient? What the fuck are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, I grew this for my patient. My patient's gonna come over and he's coming to get it." I'm like, "Can I buy a gram?" He's like, "No, it's all for my patient." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Dude shows up, old dude shows up and gets it from him. And then like shortly after this, because part of my growing thing was partially out of jealousy. Part of my starting to like learn like how to grow and learning how to breed was also out of jealousy, and I'll get to that in a minute too. but but Tyler's like, yeah. So Tyler's like, he tells me the next day, he's like, because I had these two roommates, Tyler and Matt. And Tyler says, "I'm gonna start a dispensary." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing to start a dispensary?" I looked at him because like Tyler's like 7-8 years younger than me. I'm like, "What the fuck are you gonna do? Start a dispensary?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Me and like, and anyway, so they started a dispensary. And that very first year, they won first place in Cannabis Cup and third place." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" I go, "This kid doesn't know shit. I smoke weed with him all the time. This guy was a fucking rat, sometimes like a fucking rat hound whenever I bring my weed, my bong out, trying to smoke my weed all the time. Like, now he's fucking winning cups. Like, how hard can this shit be?" Right? Like,
The best part is, I think a lot of us know exactly that motivation. We're like, "Wait, that fucking guy?" Yeah. No, please
yeah, I'm
continue.
like, that fucking guy. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, how hard can this shit be? Right. And I remember he looked at me. I remember one day he was like, telling me, he's like, "Oh, you don't even know what the fuck you're smoking." He's like, "You don't even know what's in your weed. You smoke all this weed. You don't even know what the fuck's in it." And you know what? I hate to say it, at the time, he was mostly right. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know about all the PGRs back then. Right. I didn't know about all this harsh what do you even call them? What do you call fluoromite and like Avid and like those are like beyond, those are like toxic fucking monstrosities, toxic chemicals. I didn't know about
Yeah,
these
because you
toxic.
could just tie it up there because they're all different chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about all these bad chemicals that people were putting on weed. And back then they were putting it on weed in abundance because there was nobody knew. Nobody knew, right? Think about it. Pre 2009, 2010, pre medical for most states, all black market, nobody knew, nobody even questioned what the weed was growing with. That didn't even came into people's thoughts. They want to know if it smelled good and if it got you high.
We were talking about this the other day, weren't we? On my show, or anyway, regardless, we were talking about the medical days and how there was this presumption. I think Bud was talking about this. Yeah, it was on my show, and Bud was talking about this. We were talking about like synthetic versus organic, and he was talking about, I guess he kind of assumed back in the medical days things were better, but I was like, hold up, I think some people maybe were fine. Some people are super conscientious and everything else, and are very just conscientious about life in general. Some people when they go to the grocery store, they return the shopping cart, right? Some people don't give a single fuck. And a lot of people are perfectly happy to lie about it. And there have been quite a few dreadlocked hippies that live up in the mountains. Turns out when you open up their shed, it's fucking advanced nutrients. Like that's happened many times. And they spray the fuck out of their plants and on and on and on. But they'll tell you it's all organic and blah blah blah. Can't always take everybody on faith. That's why there's freaking testing,
Yeah.
right? I hate to say it, but Reagan was right about trust but verify, right?
But Tyler having his dispensary and Tyler being a little asshole, basically put these seeds into my mind that maybe I do need to check out these things, right? And because of him and because of some of that jealousy there, I was like, yeah, I think I can grow weed better than this dude. And then I went to that dispensary, like I telling you at first. I went to the CPC and I go in there and I see Ben, my old coworker, and we start having a chat. And he's like, hey, we're having a soil class here, and like it was like a few months after going there. He's like, oh yeah, we're having a soil class, a TGA soil class. Subcool's going to be down here. He's going to be teaching the TGA thing. He's like, bro, just come, free, And so, I did kind of made an appearance, but I didn't really stay, because I didn't know what a subcool was really at the time. Like my friend Rob, Technological, he knew about subcool probably before anybody in Seattle. He's the guy that told Jinx Proof about subcool, and that later blossomed into something pretty cool. But my buddy Rob, like he was growing weed like way before me. And another inspiration too was always going over to Rob's house. I'm like, oh man, not to knock Rob in any kind of way or anything, but I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it, And I just had all these friends that were like, they were already like kind of growing weed, and I was already in the scene kind of on the wholesaler side of it, underground wholesaler, legacy wholesaler side. Where I was buying weed and getting it to its final destination back in the day. So I'd already had like these connections, and like the weed my mom grew, it was just fucking garbage. Like she grew garbage weed. I don't even know where she got her weed from. It's like fucking. She used to call it UW, but if it was UW, it was the shittiest cut of UW ever. But she used to grow with Peter's 20, which became the Jack's 321, that company. Like they used to have an old product where they just called the JR Peters 20, and that's what she used to grow with. Which, thinking about it now, she had 20% nitrogen throughout flower. That's probably why it tasted like shit, right? So I'm sure she doesn't know how to properly cure or dry, so I know this day for sure, because she just like would dry it and stick it in a jar, and I don't think she quite understood the burping and the whole little science and art of that, because that is an art and a science there, and the whole burping and not releasing too much gas.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, have you ever had like Miracle Grow weed? It probably tasted kind of like that, right?
Oh yeah, terrible. Yeah, that heavy chlorophyll taste, and the chemical chlorophyll taste. Yeah, but no, my journey kind of started really blossom, and I kind of went really fast on it because I had already had all these friends. Because as soon as I like had the light bulb and like told one person that I was gonna grow, oh, I got some double XL hoods you can have. I got some magnetic ballasts. Got some fucking China hats. All my different friends, right? And so I'm like, nah, I don't want any of that shit. So I want new shit, because like I'm a technology guy. Like I like some old shit. Like if we're talking amplifiers and shit, I want the old Macintosh or the Carver amplifiers, right? I want tube amps. Like I want old shit. But if we're talking like grow equipment, I don't want 10, 20-year-old grow equipment. I don't want old
You're the
shit.
You're the Commodore 64 kid, right?
I definitely am. Commodore 64 for sure. 6502 for life, bro. Anyways, but no, no, so I was like, anyway, yeah, all my buddies are growing weed. So I the first clone I bought, I bought this, I knew it. What the fuck was it? It was Sour Kush. I think it was Sour Kush. first clone that I bought at a dispensary. And I brought that thing home, and somehow by magical luck, it didn't have bugs or botrytis or nothing. Like, it was good. And my first time cloning that clone was also like magical, because like I had like 100% success rate. It was like magic. I was like, I don't even know how I struggle to this day with like cloning. But back then, like in Washington, you have ideal weather, you have ideal humidity and ideal temperatures. And so a hood, just having a hood with a light on it and just spraying a couple times, once a day, it shit clones on its own in Washington almost. Like, it was so easy. But in Southern California, it's like, what are we at, 26% humidity right now? It's 100 degrees. It's a different story. You got to cool the room. You got to add humidity. It's
such bizarre weather. My goodness. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's the fucking desert, right? It's not and I'm like, where two deserts meet, where the Mojave meets the Colorado desert. So it's like two deserts are meeting. So it's a different, and then you got around the other side of the mountain there, you have a different, another zone, right? So it's like, it's a really strange. And then, it gets up to 124 in Palm Springs, which is just down the street.
That's just ludicrous. I can't imagine living in that kind of circumstance, like being, I don't know. How would you grow a weed outside? Oh, it's just crazy.
I'm trying to not.
Right.
But it's it got a lot more expensive up north since I left, and looking to move. Cali's looked to go back, and it's like it's got a lot expensive. And then there's been some social and economic changes since I left there too. We didn't have tent cities when I left there. They didn't have all this fentanyl drug. There was always been a heroin problem in Seattle, but there was not a fentanyl problem, and there was not a tent city problem, and there was not a RV for 5 miles on one side of a street, both sides of the street problem. Like, those are all within maybe the last decade problem.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon either. I'm seeing more and more. I haven't seen it in person yet, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time. But friends will send me a picture, or I see it on Reddit or something. Bars will have fentanyl test strips in the bathroom, and I actually think that's a good thing, honestly, because people are going to have those drugs to test their drugs for fentanyl, basically, because apparently so many people are getting cocaine or whatever else, and it's laced with fentanyl, and because fentanyl is super cheap to make, and it looks like everything else basically, apparently, and it gets you super fucking high apparently, so it's really, really easy to pawn it off as just whatever else. So, but also really easy to overdose if you think it's cocaine or whatever, right? Anyway,
that's a whole nother
super sad.
I'm very, very against the very, very against that kind of shit.
Apparently one. Sorry,
I'm not a fan of any sort of opiates or barbiturates or I don't like. I really don't like pharmaceuticals.
They serve their place for super pain, but they're so dangerous in other ways. Yeah,
but I like any pharmaceutical. I don't even like taking Tylenol. Like, I don't want to put that. I don't like pills. Don't like it.
Same here.
Some people would love that shit. Some people like those highs. Some people like to abuse those things. To me, it's like, I don't even like it when I need it. I mean, it's I'm forced to take it. And I think that I think alternative methods should definitely be used first in the pharmacopoeia of hospitals and stuff. But they make a lot more money off of something that's consistent in a lab created, right? So whatever. I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion. But back to weed. So yeah, so I grew the weed. I had real good success with the clones. Then I grew it in a room at that time. Tents were not known to me yet. I didn't know that when I found out about the tent, I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool, because you could have that in an apartment, and you have like little laboratories, like little micro laboratories, and they're completely sealed, and each one can have its own little filters in it and fans, and so I gravitated towards that, and I bought a tent that was too big at first. I bought like an 8x10 or some shit, 8x8 or some big motherfucker, right? And I got it, and I was like, fuck. I'm trying to like squeeze between it to like get around the room because it was like all of the room. I'm like, how do people like put fans and shit in this stuff? I'd have to like unzip it, like zip it from the inside, put my hand through the hole, like kind of, it was like it was a whole fucking thing, right? And then like I had only had like the one light at the time, and I'm like, oh shit.
But I love how instead of starting small, like a 2x2, you're like, fuck, I don't know, what should I get? Like I don't know, a 10x10 or some shit. I don't know.
Well, it's just like the room is like, I'm like, what should I get? Like, how big's this room? I just kind of guessed how big the room was. I didn't even measure it, right? Just a stoner, right? So I got the big tent, and I was like, oh, I need to get more lights. But I'd already like told everybody I didn't want their light. I don't want your old shit. So I really don't want to like, put the dunce hat on and call my buddies. Oh yeah, hey, you still got that shit you didn't want. So I fucking I went on eBay. And iPower, I think it was called. It was like this cheap brand, and they had a kit. You get like the digital ballasts were like brand new. They were like brand new at the time, and I had a big white fucking piece of shit, magnetic ballast. So I bought the iPower one, right? This thing was silent. Like the fan, it had a little fan in it. You couldn't even hear the fan. I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna buy another one of those things. So I ended up buying another iPower and get rid of the big, because that thing was like noisy. And I was like, oh, so these things got to be more efficient, like they're digital. Yeah, something like that. But except I bought the double XL hood. Like that's more like a.
Apparently they sell them at fucking Walmart now. So if you want a grow light, apparently you can get an iPower single.
Like a 315. Yeah, right. Those aren't even invented yet at the time. There's what I had was if you do like Sunlight Supply Blockbuster hood, you'll see the hood I had. But I bought it. They had one that was like a knockoff copy at the time, and I had a real Blockbuster Sunlight Supply hood, so I just bought the same thing. So I wanted to all kind of match, and so that's the exact ballast though, that black one. But yeah, that kind
that's a nice hood. Oh
yeah,
wow, yeah, that's a nice hood.
So I had three of those and one iPower in that tent.
No, for real, it's like a nice broad design. Those are always a lot better growing. I don't know why people have gravitated to the smaller hoods.
I had an 8-inch fan with a reducer on a what you call it thingy, so I could turn the speed down, speed controller. And I had basically ducted all of the lights together, and then it would, they'd pull in and pull in cold air and exhaust it out at one place out of the room. And yeah, it was cool. It worked out good. But then I also I had all these friends like putting ideas in my head, and I was like, started playing. This is like 2010, and I started playing with Spectrum. And I was like, oh, because I was like, oh well, because like people would tell me, oh, by the equator, it's or like in Hawaii or something, they get 12-12 all year round. I'm like, okay, so if you get 12-12 all year round in Hawaii or by the equator, and it's just my like stoner thinking, and like there was no science really applied to this, but I guess it kind of does apply. My idea was, if it's 12-12 all year round in Hawaii, that means you can bloom all year round, theoretically, as long as you don't have rain, and it apparently doesn't freeze there, right? So as long as you don't have rain, theoretically, you could bloom all year round in Hawaii at 12 if it's 12-12. Now, the Earth, sorry, flat Earth people, the Earth is on an axis, right, and rotating, right?
Spoiler alert.
Which means that even in Hawaii, the spectrum changes of the sun depending on the time of the year, right? So I was talking to some people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like, and when we have our harvest in the fall, like the long season, they call it like short and long." One of my buddies, he was telling me, and later on, I met other Hawaii people.
So did your mama.
but I had this friend in Seattle, a Hawaiian friend, and he's like, yeah, the weed, like, we would just like talk about the weed, right? And basically what we got to is that in blue spectrum, like if he harvests like in the shorter time of the year versus later on, the weed would be frostier but less yield. And then he said, the long season, like, at the, when they harvest and like, harvest moon, like in the end of October, November area, like that area, like he said, like, yeah, you get the bigger buds. But so anyway, I started playing with the spectrum, and I noticed that under the blue lights, just straight blue, like I would use the Hortilux metal halide, I would get incredibly frosty weed, but it would be anemic. It wouldn't be as full, wouldn't be as big of colas, but and it would be shorter too, right? It'd be shorter and fluffier, and frosty though. But when I would bloom under the red light, directly just straight red light, you get longer, elongated colas, and they're denser, and but they're not quite as frosty. So I was like, oh, well, you add so anyway, so I basically took the hoods and I basically did this kind of like this window hood thing, and so they basically both would shine down in a tent, and felt like I was getting the best. Maybe I was all psychosomatic, but I felt like I was getting a frostier bud with the same yield, right? And because basically I would checkerboard it. I had 4 lights, right? So the far 2 were metal halide, and then those 2 were the HPS. And then they came out later. They came out the super HPS red eye, and then I upgraded the red eyes, and then I had blue eyes and red eyes from Hortilux, and those bulbs were amazing. That blue eye, I would clone under it, I would veg under it, and I would bloom under it. Like I used it full spectrum. It was great. My brother, he was doing some stuff parallel to me, and I kept a lot of things secret from him. So when he started growing, I was like living with him at the time for a few months, and like I acted like I never seen it before. And he was like the genius, and he was copying. He'd brought like the True Living Organics book, and like he was buying every ingredient, everything that the Rev used, every brand, every product in the book he was using. And like he failed after like 1 grow, gave up, and he wound up giving me all that shit. So then I had all that shit, right? And one of the shits that he gave me, he had bought an induction light. It was a 400 watt induction light that covered 2x4, and it was 4,000 Kelvin. So it was like a nice white light. And I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome. I'm gonna put that right in the center. So I put that shit right in the center. So I had way too much light now. I had 5 lights in like a 4x10, 4x8, whatever the fuck that thing was. A tent as big as the room. And back then, you could stack licenses. So
I mean, once you're a serious grower, who really needs rooms anymore? Like it's basically all a grow anyway, right? So right.
Yeah, but I felt like this thing was like sealed, like I said, like I felt this thing was like a sealed laboratory. Like, so like one of my fears was like in these old houses is like there might be asbestos, or there might be drywall with some bugs or something in there, and I felt like having it in this laboratory like protects it from the element of whatever the fuck that house is that I'm in, right? Because those houses are old. Who knows? Someone might have grown in there before. I don't know.
It's not a bad point. Honestly, we were talking about medicine, you're talking about medical permits and everything else. And if you have patients and stuff, a lot of those people have legitimate respiratory conditions. And, if even flakes of asbestos are flying in from some plaster on the wall, that could be a harmful thing for them. It's probably not going to give them mesothelioma or something, but it's going to maybe inflame their lungs. We don't fucking know. We're not doctors, right? It's an interesting thought. I've always basically thought of it more in terms of just a contained kind of, a little bit of a laboratory, basically, where you essentially can play God, and anything that happens is essentially your fault because you have isolated all of the parameters basically to the best of your ability. It's really you can't replicate it with full-size rooms, because full-size rooms, traditionally, people always talk about this, they have hot and cold spots, they have microclimates and microenvironments, and you can never really get rid of those things. Whereas in something as small as a tent, you can pretty well get rid of it, or at least you can equalize it to a small space. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the environment. It's also you can well light, and then also the tent walls, they're all reflective, right? And the floor is reflective as well. It's felt like, it's a better distribution of light. It's easy to pull air in and pull air out of it. This felt like a little small micro laboratory. So I dug the tent. I wound up buying like more and more tents, but with that at that time though, my mom wound up getting her medical card, and my stepdad wound up getting his medical card, and one of my other friends wound up getting his medical card. And then I wind up having all these medical cards on my wall, like a stacked, like I guess I'm their caregiver was how it was at the time. But basically allowed me to have like, I had like 96 plants all of a sudden, right? And it was all legal, right, by those laws at the time. And I started doing things like, I want to explore, like I want to go collect, like sour diesel was kind of a newish thing. I was like, okay, I want to find a sour diesel. I want to find this. I wind up not finding a real sour diesel. I wind up getting bullshit fake sour diesel. But I tried to get sour diesel. I did a venture where I went and collected like all these like all the Thai weed I could find, all the different Thai cuts. I found did one where I did all the CBD cuts I could find. I just try to do like collections. Like I try to get as much things from that palette thing as one time and grow it. Because like I didn't know, like I knew that like white rhino existed. I smoked white rhino in the black market days. People would say, hey, they got some white rhino weed, and I bought it. I didn't know if they made that story up, or if the guy they bought it from made that story up, or if I didn't know if any of that was real. So when I saw a white rhino clone in the dispensary, I bought that motherfucker and I grew it because I wanted to know, if I grow white rhino, do I actually like white rhino, or was a white rhino that I smoked even real, or what, right? So first thing I did is I went and tried to collect all the strains that that were available on the street days, like G13, Romulan, White Widow, UW. I collected all these things. I grew them all out. I wanted to see if I even liked those things. I didn't know about Mercy and Humulene, Caryophyllene. I didn't know about none of that shit at the time. That came years later, right? I just knew, I liked piney weed. That's what I knew from smoking weed. I knew that I really enjoyed, because I didn't know about gas at the time. Chemdog, Sour Diesel, OG Kush family weren't introduced to me until I was probably late to the game on that. I probably didn't come across that family until like 2014. People would talk about OG Kush. I heard about it in rap songs. OG Kush was not in Seattle. I don't care what anybody says. That shit was not in Seattle. That shit was probably in Los Angeles. Probably not even in Portland, to be honest. It was probably in Los Angeles. It probably didn't make it past the Bay, if it even made it to the Bay, because OG Kush doesn't yield a lot, and it gets there's a super high demand for it in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is a very large city, as you know. I just don't think there was enough of it. I don't think there was enough of it, that there was so much of it, like the NorCal weed. There's so much of that stuff because it's outdoor that it got shipped to other states. Indoor weed growing in Los Angeles, I don't think that was the case. I think there was such a market in Los Angeles and San Diego always, and there was a premium for it. And if it was going to go anywhere, it's going to go back east to like New York and get double, triple, quadruple priced, right? I don't think it would have gone north. So I really didn't see OG Kush, true OG Kush. I didn't smoke until I came to California, I feel, in my opinion. I bought some shit called OG Kush in Seattle, but it was fruity. OG Kush isn't fruity down here. OG Kush down here is you get the real like woody, spicy, earthy. Sometimes you kind of get some rosemary, but it's gonna be like kind of gassy, but not gassy as in like petrol gas. It's more like a it's like a chemical, like I don't know, maybe like a two-stroke or something. It's like it's different.
Do you ever get rotting fruit?
What's that?
Do you ever get a taste of like rotting fruit as well?
What kind of fruit?
From OG or from something else?
Fermented fruit, like fermenting fruit. Yeah.
Fruit. Yeah, I get that a lot, but that's in stuff like Space Queen. Like Space Queen predominantly is rotting fruit. Also, Mosca, he bred a moonshine haze that he used a lot. And
I don't know if this guy's trolling or just being a New Yorker, because sometimes that could be the same thing. Sometimes it's not. Treadwater saying New York doesn't need any of your California shit weed, weirdo dork. I don't know if he's just being a New Yorker or what. He's like, get your hands off my hot dogs. Go ahead.
Yeah. Coney Island's not for everybody, bro. But anyway. New York's got a lot of beautiful things about it. But that's not what the topic is today.
Right.
We'll talk about that sometime. But no, where was I at? But no, OG Kush. But OG Kush, like I came down here, OG Kush. I was like, wow, I fell in love with that strain when I first time I smoked it. I know you don't like it, but the first time I smoked, I was like, wow, this really helps.
It's not that I don't like it. I'm just not drawn to it like a fucking moth to a flame or something, like a lot of people. It's perfectly fine. I'm just not as into it, I think, as most people. I kind of actually have circled back. I sort of miss some of the OG gassy stuff. Like I have a couple of clone only kind of things that I enjoy actually having now. So I'm like, it's changing my mind a little bit. I'm like kind of circling back to it, but still I'm way more drawn to the fruity, floral, even earthy sides more than basically that. Although I also really love the piney and kind of terpenoline dominant stuff. Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is that when they're smoking these things, they may not be smoking it in quite the right way, and they may not taste these things. Because you were talking to Romulan, and he was saying that he flavor's not a thing really for him, right? Like he said he doesn't taste ice cream from weed or something, or he doesn't taste certain things from weed, right? Well, that could be because of the boiling points of these different terpenes. Some of these boiling points are very low, like as low as like 200 and something degrees. Like I have a thing here. It is like caryophyllene, right? 266 degrees Fahrenheit. How hot is the flame on the cherry of the joint? Right? So if you're dabbing it, right? If you smoke it in a joint, you might get that taste of the caryophyllene, right? 266 is the boiling point. But
at the same time, if you get a good cookies joint, you can taste that spiciness. You can taste that caryophyllene, so it's not necessarily off-gassing immediately.
It's like your black peppers and rosemaries and clove, kind of spicy, kind of. That's where the caryophyllene. You'll taste it in a joint. You'll taste it in a flower at lower temps. But a lot of times when you dab it, you're not tasting black pepper or clove.
That's fair.
Right? Because you're dabbing it, what, 400 or 500 degrees or something, maybe more. I mean, like even the
people
little
used to dab higher than that. People used to dab at 700, 800, 900. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, like that Puffco thing, right? It's got like 3 settings. Isn't one of them like 500? Isn't that thing like in the 500s?
I don't remember. I don't have one. I
don't know. But yeah, I think a lot of it is that, and it's like another one is humulene, right? The woody kind of spicy, earthy stuff that you find like on some of the OGs and some of the classic weeds. Very low boiling point, again, 225 Fahrenheit. So you're gonna burn it off, but too hot is burning it off and not getting any of the flavor. You're just scorching it. You're just you're burning it at such a rapid rate that it just incinerates before you get any of those things, I feel. But a lot, that's what I was saying. But like limonene, real high, right? 350. Let's see what this thing says.
Limonene 349 in Celsius. It's 176. Good for cooking at low temps, they say. For example, humulene 225. You were just talking about caryophyllene 266. Very low, right? Yeah.
So you see how low these temps are.
I mean, it's
And you
still
think
hot. We
about
can't walk around in a 266-degree room, but the point is that
no,
basically
no,
it's
no,
not
no, no,
burning
but
hot or something, you know?
we're talking. A lot of people are dabbing and consuming pens these days,
Right.
and so and then there's the other thing is like how much limonene is your plant producing because of the methodology used to grow it. Like if it was grown with a synthetic fertilizer versus a like an organic system, right? Like I don't think it's any secret that organics are typically more tasty. And I think that has to do with just it's just more available sulfur, just naturally it's there. Sulfur and the magnesium are there, and they're kind of like your building blocks.
Seattle Chronic was saying the same thing, basically, that he likes to up the sulfur load, basically, of his soil and the foliars and everything else, basically, through, I think we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but fish emulsion or fish hydrolysate, blah, 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 and it helps flavor. So you're in good company anyway. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. The fish is a good one. Fish is good as long as it's sourced correctly and not full of heavy metals, which has to be sourced. A lot of the farm fish is real high in heavy metals. So you gotta be careful in the sourcing of fish product.
They were just talking about this, and I hate to say it because we got to make a decision what we're going to do with the show because it's basically over. They were talking on NPR just yesterday about the whole farmed fish industry and how actually disastrously rapacious it is, basically, in a way that most people don't even think about. They think, oh, Norwegian farms, how idyllic, how fun. There's a bunch of problems there with the antibiotics basically being used for the fish, spreading into natural wild fish, basically, and perverting the genomes in different ways, basically, or even potentially causing die-offs. But also, wouldn't you know it, the food that the fish eat comes from other fish, because fish are in many cases obligate predators, right? Obligate carnivores. So we don't really think about that. You think about a lion or a tiger or a bear or something, right? And you think, oh, okay, they eat, well, not a bear maybe, but lions, we know they eat meat, right? They don't eat, you can't have a vegan lion, right? It's not going to be healthy probably, but it needs to eat like blood and meat and stuff. So basically when you want to create lion food, we realize you actually have to grind up other animals. Well, same thing with the fucking salmon. You basically have to grind up animals and feed the animals like shrimp and all kinds of, crustaceans and stuff, feed them basically back to the fish. Well, so what they do is they go off the African coast essentially and fish for small bait fish, basically anchovies, sardines, shellfish of different kinds, shrimp, and so on. And they apparently strip mine the ocean basically of these things, grind them up, dry them out in the sun, and send them to Norway to the fucking fish farms. And what that means is it causes enormous soil ecosystem collapses in the coasts of Africa. It's super fucked up, isn't it? To have farmed Norwegian lox, you end up basically having this incredible die-off off the coast of Africa.
Yeah,
This is the most fucked up butterfly shit you can imagine. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we'll have to continue the conversation tonight. Maybe tell you about how the jealousy and the breeding came about, because really it was people telling me it was really sub-cool, and like he was telling you can't do this, you can't do that, and there's a lot of he was really anti the guy really pushed people to try to believe like he was you need to buy his stuff because everybody else is garbage. Everybody else is putting out garbage, right? It's really hard to do it. This is hocus pocus kind of shit. And I was like, if that fucking guy can do it.
Steve Jobs kind of did the same thing, actually, convincing other people the other computers were garbage and stuff.
Yeah. But it just kind of propelled me. A lot of it had to do with like if Subcool can do it, I can do it. But
That's
we'll
fair.
talk more about.
You know what? That's actually a fun thought. We can have part 2 tonight. I put up a poll in the chat if people want to show. Dee's busy tonight, but a few people want to have a show in the chat. I was actually thinking about going to get sushi. I was like, oh, I might have the night off again. Well, you know what? We can have part 2 of the discussion tonight. Let's just do a shorter show, maybe a couple hours tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We won't do game night, but we'll do basically part 2 with Flora Nugs. That'll be fun because I realize we haven't even started with any questions really, and people are enjoying the conversation. I think, Flora, it's been a fun chat.
All right.
So I guess we'll do that if you're available. Yeah, I guess I was making assumptions.
You want to do that? What you want to do? At 7, 8 o'clock?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's do 7:30.
Let's do 7. Let's do 7:30. All righty.
7:30. All right.
Sounds good.
I'll see you tonight at 7:30.
Right on, man.
All right, cool.
I'll probably start the show at 7:20, like normal time, basically, and do the disclaimers and all that stuff, and then basically by the time you're on, we can start the show. Sounds good. Right on. Well,
Gotta
Flora,
get
it's been a delight, my friend. Great to see you. Great to chat. I guess we'll put a pin in this and continue later on this evening. Thanks very much for hanging. By the way, in the meantime, for anyone who's just tuning in right now, how can people find you? I know you're on a new seed bank now. Where can people find your seeds? All that kind of stuff.
Let's see. You can Daga.garden is always a good spot for seeds for South Bay Genetics. If you go to, let's see, it was like Lucia's Seed Bank. There's what was Fang's called? I'm on
Seed
it.
Bank International.
Yeah, that one. I'm on
That's
that
the
one.
Yeah.
On Seed Seller, Neptune, United Seed Bank, Prometheus Seed Bank, bunch of places. Find South Bay Genetics. If you want my older gear, look up 7-Leaf Genetics. You can find that stuff. There's still a few people out there that have that stuff. I don't breed with those males anymore. So if you guys like Royal Kush, I was breeding with Royal Kush for years and years, for like a good 5-6 years. All those crosses, some of those are still on the Seed Seller, and some of them are still on Neptune. They're going to be aging now because I made them in I got rid of that male in 2018. So you want to get those seeds before they get too old if you guys are into Royal Kush stuff. I am friends now with, again, like I mended that relationship with Emerald Mountain, and we've done quite a few trades. And so I have the oil spill again. So I'm probably going to do some work again with the oil spill because it's one of my favorites. For medicinal benefits, it's outstanding. Inflammation, stuff like that. I don't want to get too detailed because pharmacopoeia doesn't like it, but it's very good for medicinal purposes. Royal Kush is, you guys go look up Nick Risen. You can see a guy, he had some tick issues in it. Look at what Royal Kush has done for him. And that's just one element. But yeah, we'll talk more about medicine, terpenes, and all that good, awesome stuff tonight.
Yeah, man. Cheers. Good to see you, Flora.
Right,
cheers, buddy. D, good to see you, my friend. Taking the night off. Good to see you, my friend. Have a good evening. How can people find you or whatever, my friend? Go for it.
What's going on, everybody? Well, thank you, first of all, Fumina, for always putting these shows on. Thank you to the chat for coming in and hanging out with us for the safety meeting, and to the chatters that don't chat, that are there just watching the show or listening. Thank you very much. We appreciate you very, very much. You can find me on Instagram at D_zombie_. And of course, like always, you can find me Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 o'clock Pacific, to take over. Brains.
Yeah, man.
Have a good show later on, Streamy. I might be one.
Well, right on. Cheers, D. Good to see you. Have a nice evening, my friend. Party time over at D's. And by the way, that's a good question. A couple people in the chat, I think Jeff was asking which channel. Very fair question. We'll be back on the main channel, ladies and gentlemen. So I guess you'll get the best of both worlds if you're subscribed to both channels. And if you're not, you'll be really confusing. You'll be like, wait, part 2 of part 1? Where's part 1? Well, that'll be those people's problem, ladies and gentlemen. You're the smart ones. You followed over here or maybe just randomly popped up here. I don't know. Maybe some of you are actually random new subscribers. That'd be kind of funny. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be over at Fumidor and the Flavors. If you are random new subscribers, my main channel is Fumidor and the Flavors. Come join us over there, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be talking tonight. Of course, you will still not be able to find drugs even over at that other bigger channel. There are no drugs found on either of these channels. Any of my channels are basically, you cannot find drugs on any of them, pretty much. So I guess we'll wrap it up there, ladies and gentlemen. I guess I should probably wrap it up because just in case the trolls do want to say something, this show does not provide drugs of any kind. You cannot find drugs no matter what they are. If they're Advil, Tylenol, freaking Chinese medicine, acupuncture, soul healing, faith healing, other kind of healing, I don't even know, or ass freaking boofing, I don't even know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot find drugs on this show for money, for wishes, for freaking trading, for barter. You can't find them. You won't get them. That's just all there is. Also, we don't do anything illegal, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember, everything we talk about on this show is legal under the hemp bill. We're perfectly within our rights to talk about cannabis. We're perfectly within our rights to grow hemp. We're perfectly within our rights in most places to grow medical cannabis, and in many cases, recreational cannabis in many states, Oregon, California, and Washington among them. Although Washington, I guess, has only medical rules. Still, we're not in Washington right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember, we are not breaking any rules. We won't be breaking any rules on the show tonight either. So please do not think that we are encouraging some kind of conspiracy or anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing being done untoward here. So please do remember. I realize that it sounds like bizarre language that I'm saying here, but I'm actually saying it live too. So I should probably honestly read off a list. But I'm just trying to avoid some of the trolling that's happened before. So, ladies and gentlemen, if it seems like I'm a crazy person, please excuse me. Although I might honestly be a crazy person, but hey, that's an unrelated issue. Be kind, my friends. Be decent. Be gentle. Oh, by the way, use Fumidoro.com for all of your genetic needs that don't involve Flora. We didn't even ask him about strains. We'll have to ask him, ladies and gentlemen. I know he recommends the Gas Station Bob and the Zaza, so I guess go check those out at the places he checked out or told you about. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like Fumidoro genetics, I would wholeheartedly recommend Sour Morgana from the kind of 60-day crosses. That's basically the BPR male, so nice and short on that one, and good squat depth of flavor and everything else, that cool giggly Morgana high that basically everyone knows, especially in those sour flavors. I think honestly it really pops out. But anyway, if you'd like to try something new, ladies and gentlemen, check out Gaffer Tape. That's basically GG4 to that Highland Thai Kerala, something from left field for you, and definitely probably a lot different from a lot of the OGs and Kushes that you have probably smoked before. Don't forget to use the coupon code BRAINS. How do you pronounce that, D?
Brains.
That's the way. Exactly right. Exactly that, ladies and gentlemen. Repeat that and you'll get 14% off. That's basically a loyalty discount for listening in carefully. And did I say already, be kind, be decent, be gentle, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see each other tonight over at Fumidor and the Flavors. Literally the channel, Fumidor and the Flavors. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see each other over there for part 2 of Flora Nugs. Thanks for hanging, my friends. Adios. Later, Gators. And